First, beginning of March, we start seeing a little bit of a movement in your graph. Very flashy color this year, so awesome. And we start kind of seeing how exactly the approach with the previous years. Not too bad, I would say. Not as spiky maybe as last year, but definitely the trend is growing. So I mean, we're early, it's 2 months in, but not too bad, I would say. Any first feelings?
No, as a matter of fact, the year is actually starting not that fast. So we haven't seen any huge rounds. So we had at least one or two big announcements in the last few years, if you take a look at the chart. But still, as you mentioned, the year just started. So let's see how it goes.
Awesome. And having said that, let's talk today about Italians abroad really kicking. I mean, two companies last week that are really doing like an excellent job in fundraising. So basically Proxima Fusion and Axelera AI. So maybe let's focus on this. So starting with Proxima Fusion raising 400 million in a growth round from Bavaria, RWE, IPP, which is essentially the Max Planck Institute for Plasma Physics. So very interesting play because this isn't really like a VC round per se. It's very much of an industrial policy plus term sheet plus government sort of play. So very, very interesting. And a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. What's your first feeling on this one?
Well, it was wild. So, I mean, the super interesting bit is what they are doing. So we're talking about nuclear fusion. So that's the energy angle. The energy angle is a very important one, in particular in Europe, since we had, headwinds from dismantling nuclear energy. We have problems with renewables. We are trying to set aside fossil fuels. So we need a huge disruption in energy production, and nuclear fusion looks like one possibility. And this round seems to put it on a medium term roadmap somehow, no? Early 2030s.
Oh yeah.
And that's my
Yeah.
wow take.
It's so I'm not an expert on plasma physics, but reading about it, basically what is also interesting is that they're taking a very contrarian approach to fusion. So basically there are two kinds of fusion reactor that are marketable right now, and the one they are developing is called Stellarator, which is pretty much the contrarian bet. So it's harder to build and way more efficient to run, but the sort of the architecture design is way more complex. So just to give my 2 cents about physics, so Nick, get ready about this. So basically, reading off my notes, when you have a nuclear fusion, you heat plasma to extreme temperatures, like hundreds million of degrees Celsius, and then you essentially keep it stable and confined so that the fusion reaction occur. So the Stellarator does this by using magnetic fields produced with very high degree of precision. And that's pretty much the difficult part of the engineering. So very fascinating. And that's where basically Germany is betting, where these Italian founders are betting. And the technology sounds extremely, extremely promising, and hence the big sort of round, which, by the way, is just partial because they're also looking into how Berlin can actually top it up, because I think the full round is closer to 2 billion at the
2
end of
billion,
the day.
yes.
So
Yes.
So that's impressive.
Yeah, that's impressive from one side, but if you think about the amount of R&D and investments for research and to build this stuff, that's not that big. I mean, you need like 12 billion dollars or euros to build a small nuclear traditional fission nuclear plant. So like 2 billion for the first step of demonstrating that fusion works. doesn't sound that much if you take this perspective, right? What do you think?
And that's true. That's true. I mean, on the big scheme of things, that's pretty much
Yeah.
reinventing the electric grid for the next 100 years. Let's, if we want to really push it. And I think it's really shown by the kind of the investor of this round, which is the RWE, which is one of the largest energy company in Europe. And I mean, when there is like a corporate betting on such a project, that's definitely like a strong signal. So that's super interesting.
Yep. Yeah. And there's also any ENI, there's Thales. So there's a lot of players that are involved in this activity. But I think it is strategic for everybody to have finally crack the nuclear fusion problem.
100%. All right, super interesting. Let's move to another huge round from last week. Axelera AI raising 250 million euro in another growth round from innovation industry, BlackRock, SiteGround Capital, Bitfury, CDP Venture Capital, and the European Innovation Council Fund. So a bunch of different interesting elements here, I would say. And I don't know, Nick, if you want to start, because I have my own take on that.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So starting, of course, okay. Let's first define what Axelera AI is building. So they're basically building specialized chips designed to run AI efficiently at the edge, and by edge we basically mean on device. And exactly where data is generated. So the alternative to that is essentially what is happening now, which is like data generation happen through the input, and the output passes into clouds, into the sort of the cloud infrastructure. It's very energy consuming. There are a bunch of problems, heating, server. So there is some physical limits there. What they're doing is building this like new generation of chips that essentially working on the edge to run the models. So coming to the first point, I think what is very interesting is that their thesis. So the thesis is inference is the long tail cost center. So when everybody debates about training models, of course, billions and hundreds of billions put into the training, the inference, which is pretty much the day-to-day run of those models, that's where the money is. And part of the article was mentioning how that's pretty much over a long enough time frame, it's 15 to 20 times the training cost. So a huge like market opportunity. It makes sense. It just makes sense. So inference is really the sort of the oil pipeline there, I would say.
Yeah.
What is your
totally
take?
agree. No, totally agree. And you can see that also from other things that are happening worldwide. Remember, for example, Nvidia making that kind of partnership acquisition, whatever that was, with Grok. Grok as a company had their own chip design that was optimized for inference, and right now Nvidia announced they are designing a new inference chip based on Grok technology to put it on the market. So everybody's moving. Google just made a deal with Meta for their own TPU processors in order for Meta to have them in their data centers. So everybody's moving in that direction. The point is that those everybody, they are all from the US or elsewhere in the world. So the important and interesting point here is that Axelera is a European company and one of the first focusing on AI inference with their angle, so on the edge, but still one of the few players focusing on that in Europe. And that's kind of important, I would say.
No, totally. Very interesting. Let me add some other points which are super interesting. So this is a blended finance kind of play. So we have European Union capital with VC, with customer. And for the European Investment Fund, this is the largest investment ever in an EU AI semiconductor company. So that's a big deal. And I don't think it's stressed enough. This is like a huge deal on multiple levels. So that's a big signals there. Another aspect I would say is the participation of BlackRock. I mean, that's the unusual suspect because BlackRock, okay, let's be fair, BlackRock has been very active in crypto when crypto was crypto, and then very like forward looking, etc. But to make a move on such a company, that's basically when these kind of deals stop becoming pure venture, but it becomes sort of a different play, a different beast, and not just appealing in terms of venture, but also in terms of the big wealth manager of the world, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fair point. Yes. Even though I would say the main point is having the financial capability to invest in this kind of rounds. And maybe in Europe we have fewer players, pure VC players that are have the stomach to support a quarter of a billion euros in a VC round. And then I'm not surprised because I have the feeling that BlackRock kind of is present in many rounds in this size. But yet, you're right. They have a legacy in crypto. They have a legacy in financial technologies. And there's some roots in Axelera coming from the crypto side, so Bitfury, that
Exactly.
they're over there. So there is the connection, the crypto
So
connection.
yeah, the last point I wanted to make. So maybe something good came out of crypto and everything that happened in crypto.
Ooh,
So
you
basically,
want to make
the
friends
interesting.
now.
I'm gonna make a lot of friends for sure. Yeah. So basically, Axelera was born inside the Bitfury, which, by the way, is one of the investor in this round, which is a crypto mining hardware company. So basically, working on hardware to make mining as efficient as possible. So there you go. I mean, this is like a second order sort of effect of a trend that it's kind of dying, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. But the work that has been done for the mining, which is extremely complicated and extremely energy, it was at least energy inefficient, kind of bled into this kind of company. So very, very interesting take on here. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And anyhow, just now that you mentioned Bitfury, I was reading a press release they released in November last year. They released 1 billion initiative to advance ethical emerging technologies. 1 billion. That's a
Wow.
lot of money.
That's impressive. That's impressive. I
Yeah,
don't know
it is.
who's backing them, honestly, but yeah, I didn't research that, but super interesting to see.
Me neither. I'm just reading the press release as we speak, but still not very, 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 notable.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
it's the pivot power. I mean, people that have been going hard on hyper growth technology, kind of shifting quickly and efficiently, I would say, to something that it's kind of the next generation of the whatever else which is scaling. So efficient hardware mining, boom, reframed into AI efficient edge technology chips makes absolute sense.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah,
absolute sense, and
yeah.
I'm sure it's not easy. So, but
Uh,
definitely a great play.
just to close the Italian angle, so why are we talking about Axelera? Of course, CDP is an investor, so CDP is an investor, so it's close to home. And one of the founders and the CEO of the company, Fabrizio Del Maffeo, of course, is an Italian. So uh, it is interesting how we have our connationals operating in these angles in Europe.
Awesome. So let me close this episode with a couple of things. So first of all, shout out to Italian Tech Alliance. Basically, they're promoting and basically submission is still open. They're promoting a tech transfer academy where essentially they want to bridge the gap between research in Italy and basically starting a company or spinning off a company. And there is a very interesting roster of great speakers. It's a 6-session sort of academy, but very, very well put together. So people that are interested are still on time. Very, very interesting initiative for sure.
Yeah, you can sign up by March the 6th. So today is the
Yes,
3rd. So currently is the 3rd as we are
and
recording.
as we're recording, exactly. One last mention is a very interesting article that you mentioned in the newsletter, Nick, which is the one talking about Agentic AI and B2B SaaS and how that is basically shifting and interacting and changing. So very interesting point. And I encourage people to read this kind of perspective. And just to give some takes, the idea, there are a bunch of different like interesting elements. One of which is the fact that, SaaS companies are basically evolving. UI is less and less important than it used to be before because people are way, way more, appreciative of the chat interface that everyone is using right now through AI. And on the other side is the fact that operators that have like a data layer, which is like extremely polished and well structured, will be in the best position to actually benefit from this uprising of the AI technology in some form or another. So very interesting angle. SaaS companies are changing. B2B is changing. The way we use B2B is changing. So it's a super interesting read.
Yeah. Again, we could, start a debate about this because there are pros and cons to this take. For example, it reminds me, of packaged software against cloud software back in the days. Where
Interesting.
you have the moat. The moat is having all the data and the software on your computer, and look where we are today. So I think the jury is still out, but it is a super helpful reading right now. So go ahead and
Yeah.
take a look at it.
No, at the end of the day, everything boils down to data. At the end of the day, and back in the cloud, back in AI, I mean, at the end of the day, that's the starting point. The knowledge base. Now it's fancy, the knowledge base, right?
Yeah.
But it's data at the end.
Yeah, we will call it memory in some time, but it's still that. So
Interesting.
yeah,
So
exciting
everyone,
times.
everyone out there that studied data science, you guys are gonna be okay. Don't worry, you're gonna be very useful. All right, Nick, thank you so much for joining, and great episode today, and I'll see you next week. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Take care. Ciao, everybody. See you in a week.